Drago.
What is up?
Episode 14.
14, baby.
I had 4 people reach out to me in between our last episodes, asking me where to get help. 2 of them I sent to a center that I know and like in Chicago. 1 of them I sent to a meeting, and the other one hasn't responded to me.
That's awesome, dude.
What's been some successes for you?
Successes for me, man. Just saying staying sober is a success for me, right? Yeah, I just tried to live one day at a time, and if we can help anybody or we can bless anybody or somebody wants to get sober or try to get sober, that's a blessing to me. So as they come in, I'm super grateful for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like it's my way to give back, to be of service to people, which, I mean, I'm of service to people all day, every day, but that's like what really like fills my cup up.
How's our friend that went to Vegas strong? How's he doing?
Good. Yeah. Devin's good, man. He's doing good. He's living with my mother-in-law. He's working a program. He's in the process of getting into a long-term treatment center. So that's a little bit of a process here in Vegas, but he's doing it. I saw him 2 weeks ago. We did a family event at the river, and he had just celebrated 61 days to be exact.
Man, that's awesome. Good for him. That's, I mean, the condition we talked about being in, we've both been there, to have that vulnerability and understand you need help and to go after and be successful. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll do 100 of those, just to 100 of these just to help one person like that.
Oh, bro. All day. I mean, that's what we're doing here on just trying to get the word out. I'm not trying to get famous on a podcast. I just want to help more people, if that's a possibility, if they want the help.
Yeah. So I've been saying, like, gosh, I had 2 conversations this week with friends of mine that are struggling with alcoholism, like severe alcoholism. Right. And I talked to a couple of their family members. Right. And they're angry, and I get it. But I'm like, hey, you also had your dad and your cousin who had cancer. I watched all over Facebook how you guys put on the bracelets and wore the shirts and posted positive stuff every day about your family members going through cancer. Are you giving that same support to your brother and your sister that are dealing with addiction, which is an illness like cancer? And it just opened their eyes, right? I'm like, no, you're not, because no one does. And until we start doing that, there's always, you've been through it, I've been through it, there's this shame cycle, right? Now, thankfully, I received my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who died on the cross, I believe, for my sins, and removed that shame. And once I started believing that, the guilt and the remorse and the vicious cycle I used to go in, it's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. It's like any impulse, right? So I just want to, first of all, talk about that. Then I want to talk about some forgiveness and reconciliation.
Yeah.
Right? So how can we, band together as a society, as friends, as family members, to help someone, right? I'm 14 years clean with 3 relapses, right? You're 5 years through it. So you're a little closer to it than I was, right?
Yeah.
How would you have accepted family help when you were going through the treatment, going to the meetings? Talk about that.
Man, that's a good question. I think for me, I don't think family could have helped me. I mean, my family was always supportive. I think, when you have problems and you're in it, in the thick of everything, and then a lot of times when you have these behaviors and you're doing drugs and you're drinking, you're making dumb decisions, just you're stealing money, like it always leads to bad. What do they say in AA? Like you're either going to end up in jail or an institution, right? So I think a lot of times it's hard for family to just like give the forgiveness. Like if I came to you and say, man, I got diagnosed with cancer, everybody's gonna be like, oh my goodness, let's go. So I think at the start of it's got to be a willingness from you to be able to want to make a change and do the work, right? And then as as time goes on and you continue to do the right things, and they can see the progression in you, and they can see you change, and they can see your personality change, and you're working and holding a job, you're not stealing money. Like, that's when I feel like the family comes together. But then at the same time, I feel too like possibly the addict kind of has this perception of like, F them, right? Like, they didn't have my back when I was, you know, in the thick of it. But I think it's a process. It takes time. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, my family would help me do whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I think they would be just helping me out of instinct and trying to help their kid. Like my mom would literally bend over backwards, right? Like, wherever I need to go, drive me wherever I need to go, do whatever I need to do. But that was more out of like a desperation because she doesn't want her son to die. Right. As time's has gone on, and the years go by of being sober, like, you know, the support from her is incredible. We're at the point now where to be fair, I'm trying to get her to come on the podcast and talk about this, because you know, we haven't talked about that. So she's not at the point yet where she's like is ready to come on and like share that with the world. But I feel like as the years
come on the pod, Mom.
On the pod, Mom. I'm trying. Mom. I'm trying. I tried. She's like, she shut me down, but that's okay. That's not a problem. We'll figure it out. But I think time, you know, time is what really makes it real, and it makes it where the family or the friends really support. But you got to get some clean time, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. We'll talk about, I'm going to go pretty deep with you too, and a little personal. So hopefully you're ready for it. But talk about you and your mom's relationship while you were going through recovery, right? She obviously did something very, very right. Right. And I think it's natural to feel some guilt when you have a child that's going through addiction, and you feel guilty like you did something wrong, right? And you and I both know it's in your DNA, or it's the environment you expose yourself to make yourself feel better about your friends group, right? A lot of times I don't believe our parents can control it much. I seriously don't, right?
No.
I think if you have those tendencies and you have those impulses, for me it started with, I smoked a little bit, and I did not like that, right? It was not my thing. Like, why would I want to feel this way and all calm? I want something that revs me up, right?
Yeah.
Started with, you remember when they had a ephedrine at the gas station?
Yeah. Fen. You can go buy the ephedrine at the back. Yeah. Oh yeah. Those will keep you up for a couple of days.
Man, you can ask a couple of my friends. I would play baseball on them, right? Yeah. And my arm would never give out. And they're like, I was a catcher, and they're like, you're throwing it back.
They called them greenies. I remember.
Yes, it's like greenies, like the pro baseball. They're like, dude, you're throwing the ball back to the pitcher harder than the pitcher, right? So I'm all revved up and geeked out, but it started there, right? Yeah. And I was like, I always got to be going. I always got to be on. I always got to be alert, right? Then I tried meth because meth was available in the city. I did not like that. I only tried it once, right? But then I got introduced to ecstasy and cocaine. I was like, oh, I really like those, right? There was nothing my parents could have done about it. Nothing. They had no idea, right?
Yeah.
Maybe my mom, when I came back from college and she asked why I had crushed up Tylenol in a baggie, maybe she should have known then, right? Then she could have probably done something, but I was already living on my own, right? So talk about that a little bit, like, you know, why I know because you've shared with me how important you and your mom's relationship was to your recovery. So maybe talk about that journey a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like my mom has a lot of guilt and shame just because she couldn't, you're right. Like, she was never going to control me. Like, I was going to do what I wanted to do. And I did that well into my 20s and 30s, you know what I'm saying? So, but, you know, my mom would do anything for me to help me, her son. I'm like her firstborn child. I like to, my brother says he's the golden child, but I gotta beg to differ on that one. Right. So it's just, we've always been close my entire life. And then I feel like maybe when you become a parent too, and I haven't experienced this yet because my kids are little, and then you raise this child and he turns into a man, and he's doing good, and then all of a sudden it just fucking falls off the rails, right? And you're just, what happened? Where did I go wrong? I think that's where my mom struggles with, is just like, man, what did I not do?
Maybe blames herself a little bit.
I think so. Cause I did it all. I experimented with all the stuff too, right? I smoked weed. I played sports in high school, just like you. Like I drank, I had a good time with my friends. I mean, you met Brian last week. Like we were always partying, drinking, doing that stuff. I really didn't get into the opioids until I was, out of high school and starting to kind of become a young man and working. But like, I think she just has the perception of like, how did I not know that because she always says the same thing. Like, how did I not know that you were abusing opioids? It was one of those things where, and that's what really made it convenient for me too. Cause I love the way that it made me feel, but at the same time, it was very easy to hide.
Yeah.
Nobody knew I was taking them. I could store them away in my car. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody ever caught on what was going on, So I think that's one thing for my mom. She holds a lot of guilt and shame on just like, man, how did I not know?
You're already too old for her to control you. She couldn't have done nothing, right?
Hey, for sure. But I'm still her son. You know what I'm saying? And so she feels a lot of responsibility on that. And and listen, my mom is a savage. Like, so she's done everything. Like even into my being an adult. Like, oh my God, I'll tell you a crazy story. So before I was in lending, I was in the credit restoration business, and I would travel to these different states.
I made him do this, by the way, Mr. Dragovich. So
I would meet with mortgage lenders, and I would be like, "Hey, I want you to send me your people that don't have good credit, right?" And so I would spend time alone, and then I stopped going to meetings, and I stopped participating in recovery. And then I started like hanging out with lenders, and I'm like, oh, these guys are fun. And you start drinking. So long story short, I ended up getting like wrapped into like needing a doctor that would prescribe me Adderall, which is basically like meth, right? Mm-hmm. And so like I don't know what I was thinking, but I decided that I was in New Mexico, and I was there for 2 weeks, and I was going to drive to California, and I was going to hook up with some of my friends, have a good time, and then drive back. Well, that ended up being like me staying up for 4 days. And I was like, literally, it was bad. I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, my mom's like, and I have this rental car from this company in California. My mom's like, I'm like, I'll quit. I'll just take the car back. I'll just move back. Cause I was living in Colorado at the time. I'm like, I'll just move back. Well, she said, hell no, dude. Get in the car. And she drove me while I slept in the middle of the night from Orange County, California, all the way to Albuquerque, New Mexico, so I could make my flight back. So my mom has always been my ride or die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how is that important through your recovery?
At the time, I don't know. It important for my recovery, knowing that she would always have my back. So really, like, also too, my mom was kind of like my enabler. Like, I could always go to her. Like, if I ever had a problem, that was a big thing when I met my wife, because any type of problem or situation, I'm like, oh, we don't have money. Oh, we call the Bank of Mary, right? We'll call my mom, because my mom will take care of everything. Oh, I couldn't make my truck payment. Call my mom. Oh, my truck got repoed. Oh, crap, I forgot to make my payment. Mom, can you come help me? So she was always my enabler there. So I just know she had my back. But once I like met my wife, and then it was game over. Like, there was no way I couldn't do any drugs. She always knew everything, right? And so realizing that like I couldn't allow my mom to be my enabler, that was really important for my recovery. It just took me a long time to realize that like I was using her to feed my addiction.
Yeah. So did that help you get clean?
I mean, I got clean because I didn't want to lose my wife and my kids, but at the end of the day, yeah, for sure. Like, last thing you want to do is make your mom not proud of you and not talk to you. And because it got to the point where she just cut it all off, like not talking to me, no communication. Like, she just had to say, I'm done. My mom did the, what is it? NARON. I can't think of the name, the abbreviation where non-app parents go to recovery. So she went through that whole process, and she just was like, dude, you got to figure it out. And like, I can't be in your life, and I can't talk to you until you figure it out. And it didn't really get that horrible, but ultimately, yes, I did. I got clean because I didn't want to kill myself. But at the same time, I got clean for like my wife, my kids, and my family, because I just was making a shithead of myself all the time.
Yeah. And you didn't want to let her down, right?
For sure.
Eventually her taking the hard stance and stopping the enablement, it was supportive in you getting through your recovery.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Which leads into like making amends. Like I'm still in the process of, making amends with my mom. Like, I mean, we're talking years and years and years and years and years of like stealing. Like I did it all. Like steal your jewelry so I could take it to the pawn shop so I can go get some money. Like my mom works in an industry where she owns her own business and she'd always have cash and she'd hide it and I would find it in the house and, oh, I don't know what happened to your money. It disappeared. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So
Wow. How are you going to get forgiveness for that?
I think the forgiveness from my mom is just doing the right things when no one's looking. Right.
Yeah. Well, you're certainly doing that.
Yeah. And continuing to be true to myself.
Yeah. I would venture to say you don't need the forgiveness. It's already happened. Right.
I think it's there too, but I like, that's like one of the reasons I was like, man, come on the podcast. Let's have a conversation. I know like the world's going to see it, but
yeah,
like we've never, now that I have kids and a family and I live in Vegas and they live in Orange County, well, I mean, like I'm going to see her next weekend, but we never get like one-on-one time. I think the last time I got like some real one-on-one time with my mom is when I lived in Colorado and she came to see me, but I wasn't using at that time. Like that was her coming to see her son who was doing good, living in Colorado. Like I was like making him like, yeah. And then same situation, right? Like she comes and see me, everything is good. And then 6 months later, I'm on her doorstep, messed up on meth because I've been up for 5 days. I have no idea where I'm at. I couldn't, like, I was walking around the neighborhood trying to find my parents' house because I was like literally hallucinating, driving this rental car that I could have like crashed and killed somebody. You know what I'm saying? So I could see where my mom would just be like, what is going on with you?
Yeah. Yeah. Oof. I mean, that is abuse and addiction at its rock bottom, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If I can give you some advice, I've been on this journey of forgiveness, right?
Mhm.
And I'm going to make sure that the forgiveness is in my heart and removes the weight that I have from the poison of holding on to tough things, right? So I'll give you an example. I had a business partner and things split up, right? And he did some things that screwed me over. I certainly had some retaliation, right? And such a good guy, such a good family man, such good kids, great time we had together, went on this amazing run, both made each other a lot of money, right? But man, I held on to that poison, right? It was a lot of money I didn't get that I felt I had the right to 50% of since I was in the partnership. Didn't get any of it, right?
Yeah.
And man, I held on to it for 2 years, right? And my friend, my mentor, Jane Floyd, we had a conversation about it, and she's friends with this guy too, right? She's like, dude, you need to call and forgive. And doesn't mean you need to reconcile. There's a difference between forgiveness and reconciliation, right? I said my part. I reached out for the forgiveness, right? It was like I took a 50-pound crap, right? It just all released the weight off my shoulders. You know what I'm saying? So I'm so glad I did it, right? And I've been on this journey of doing it. I did it with my mom, right? I told my mom everything I did. She didn't believe it, right? My mom's has pretty severe Parkinson's, starting to go into dementia, right? I am on this path and journey that I'm going to leave nothing unsaid, right? I'm not going to leave anything unsaid. We had a friend pass away yesterday, a friend of ours, father, right? And we just had some great times with him. We used to tailgate with him. We used to go to football games with him. Just a great, great guy, right? And I was having conversations with my friends about all those good times, right? When I was at the height of my drug use, right? But he still always accepted me. And sometimes he knew I was there high, right? Sometimes he knew I was using while I was going to the football games and tailgates, right? But man, it was just so important that I told his son, like, your dad never judged me. Your dad always welcomed me in. I will always have fond memories. I know, because he knew my father, knew that I had been getting into some trouble, right? He knew what was going on, but always accepted me in, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just on this journey of, I'm never going to tell my kids enough that I'm proud of them, right?
Yeah.
I'm never going to tell my friends enough that I love them. I'm never going to tell my family members and my wife that I love her enough. I am on this just obsession about leave nothing unsaid, right?
Yeah, I like that, and I mean, maybe I've never like thought of it that way. I do the same thing. Like I could be dead. I almost killed myself multiple times. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, and like having a comeback and winning and like just being awesome and living a blessed life right now, like I just feel the need to, like, I tell everybody I love you, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we don't tell each other we love each other enough. We don't tell each other we do a good job enough. We don't give praise to people enough. So I get what you're saying on not leaving anything said, and I'm gonna start doing that as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the business partner, right? Never heard back from, didn't say a word, didn't return my calls, obviously doesn't want a reconciliation. Doesn't mean we
But
have to reconcile.
yeah, you don't have to, but you kept your side of the street clean. That's
I
all that matters.
cleaned up my whole side of the street. My
Yeah,
side has no dirt on it. I'm not saying his side has dirt. That's
yeah,
his
yeah,
decision to make if he wants to clean up his side of the
yeah,
street. I took ownership. I apologized. I talked about the good times. I said, hey, I would love to catch up and talk and put this in our past, right?
yeah.
I did my part. I felt so good after doing it.
That's awesome, dude.
Cool.
Yeah.
So once
What do
you
you
do that
what
with
do
your
you
mom,
what do you think about like people that aren't here anymore, like that you would need to make amends to, like so your friend passed away, so you felt compelled to like tell his son how important his dad was to you?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think if is it a family member you're referencing?
Yeah.
Tell other family members, right? Tell other people, like, here's what I did. I'm holding on to this. I feel horrible. I address people all the time, right? Like,
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know if my dad's in heaven. He wasn't a Christian, right? Wasn't a practicing Christian. We would go to church. He'd be at the bar. I don't know if he's in heaven. I wouldn't
Maybe.
think he was by my standards, right? But I still
Yeah.
talk to him, right? I still have asked for forgiveness for a few things. I don't know if he heard it or not, but it made me feel a hell of a lot better.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Cause like I'm referencing like my grandma, like I spent a lot of time at my grandma's house too. Like, so she was like a second mom to me, and it's like I shit on her a lot. And so I, I, I believe in a higher power. I don't necessarily know if that's Jesus Christ. I'm trying to figure that out for
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
But I do believe that there's something greater than us, and I do believe that there's something for us at the end of this life when our fleshy body is gone. Like, what happens to our consciousness? So this might seem totally crazy, but like, I have conversations with my grandma. Like, I
Yeah.
still talk to her, and I have in my head made amends. Maybe that's me being crazy, but like, I can literally hear her respond sometimes when I talk to her.
Say it out loud, right?
Yeah,
Say
I
it
do.
out loud. Give yourself affirmations. Allow yourself forgiveness. Forgiveness is for you, right?
Yeah.
Reconciliation is for you and the other person. If either of you want it, it doesn't mean you need to reconcile, right?
Yeah.
Like, I had a friend I talked to yesterday, had no idea. He was just off, man. I mean, he's been off. He's been kind of rude. We work together. We work together in real estate. We pray together. We've talked about scripture. He's just been off, like rude to my staff. I'd have a little talk to him, like, dude, you can't talk to my people that way. What's going on
Yeah.
with you? Right.
Yeah.
And guess what I found out?
He's drinking.
His wife was cheating on him.
Oh, wow.
He's got an 8-year-old.
Something major is going on in his life for sure.
So I felt horrible that I even had that conversation with him,
Yeah.
right? Felt terrible, right? That I even went there, right? So I think it's really important because you shared with me some of the stuff you did to your grandma, right?
Yeah.
But you got to forgive yourself for that, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of why we're both doing this, right? Someone
sure.
within us is like, hey, we have a need to try and make amends with the wrong that we did to make things right.
Yeah, for sure. I I took a lot of money from her, like in the tune of like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I didn't go to jail, and there was no repercussion for me.
Mhm.
Like, I just was making horrible decisions based off somebody that I love because I could manipulate her because she would do whatever. She was my enabler too. She would do whatever I wanted. And so that eventually turned into like when you're a full blown drug addict and you're doing like opioids and, you know, an oxycodone pill costs $80 and you take 4 of them a day. Like you got to figure it out. Right. And so for me, that was stealing money, like basically taking money out of her bank account. So, and I never got the opportunity to like make amends. I do. I mean, I talked to her in my head, but like that's been something even starting this podcast, like that I needed to get off my chest because I'd never really even talked about it because I talked to my parents about it. I let them know like I was going to talk about on this podcast about, you know, stealing, you know, over $100,000 from her. Yeah. And they were cool with it. Yeah. So
good. Well, have you forgiven yourself for it?
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like you have. You still get emotional talking about it.
I do. Yeah, for sure. Cause I like you, I don't feel like I've done enough good enough in my life to like forgive doing that.
Yeah. Well, what I learned is I was a different person, right? We have both reprogrammed our brains to not have those impulses or addictions anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And when I had them, I mean, it was pornography, it was women, it was drinking, it was money and notoriety and attention, right? I mean, it was a lot of impulses that I went after 2006 through about 2009 before I met my wife, right? Yeah. And it's all just, it all came down to having to reprogram my brain, right? So I think the important thing as we seek forgiveness, right? Because you're seeking the forgiveness. First, you got to forgive yourself, right? So I wrote these things down today, and a pastor that I've become good friends with gave this to our coaching group today. Number one, you have to focus on yourself first, right? Before you start the healthy conflict, right? And remember, conflict is an opportunity, right? Conflict is an opportunity, and we all have the capacity to recreate ourselves, right? But it's a lot of times going to come through conflict. So number one, we got to focus on yourself, right? Number two, you have to have a humble posture, which is a humility to understand the other side, right? So I have a near and dear friend, right? I'll just share my politics. I have leaned left and now I leaned right throughout my life, right? Probably lean a little more right now, but kind of sit in the middle, right?
Okay. And I mean, that's a good thing though, because you're growing as a human in purpose, and we all change and have different perspectives.
Yeah. Like I've told a few people who I'm going to vote for. I get blasted for. I was like, well, you got to remember, I voted for this person for that. I am not. Do I call it party brainwash? Maybe party brainwash. I will vote for both sides, right? If I think they're the best candidate. So anyways, I'm going off on a tangent, but I had to have some humility. So I got in a big argument with a friend of mine, right? And she would have lost her life if she wouldn't have had an abortion.
Wow.
Right? She would have lost her life. It was the decision, the baby or her, right? So what do you think her perspective is on abortion?
She's pro-choice, right?
Absolutely. Now, let me share mine with you. I was adopted, right? I was the product of a one-night stand or some foolery on the side. I was not just a surprise, a mistake, right? Yeah. And so my mom, my biological mom, who I still haven't found, I'm on that journey, but she could have made the decision to have abortion. I wouldn't be here, right? Then I had my preemies, Nora and Colette, right? They were born 2.6 and 2.8 pounds, right? Then as all this kind of started back and forth, some of the states went to like 30-week abortions, 32-week abortions. So I saw babies younger than that. I saw what they look like firsthand in the hospital every single day, right? What they looked like and what a fetus looked like, right? So what do you think my perspective is?
It's all about, if you procreate, you're gonna create
pro-life, right? Yeah. Mine is pro-life because of my perspective in the world. And we all have different perspectives, and we got to appreciate the other side. Now, I love this friend Dealey, and her and I will battle on it, right? We've got into arguments about it before, mostly when we're drinking and having a good time, right? It'll turn in and our spouse will be like, oh my God, shut up, you two, right? And it's all in good debate, but it's gone a little too far once in a while, right? But I love her and I appreciate that we can have that debate and I can understand where she's coming from because I would have that probably outlook too if I would have went through what they went through. And if they would have went through what I went through, they might have my perspective, right? And that's humbling yourself and humbling your posture. So the second thing I do is humility and a humble posture to seek understanding on the other side, right? Third, you got to validate other perspectives and feelings, right? You got to check and see what their feelings are on it, right? They might be super pissed off. I had to call her the next day when I went too far and said, I am so sorry. I feel like I went too far. Are we good? Right?
Yeah.
I went too far. I raised my voice. You're a woman. You're my friend. And I started to raise my voice and yell. And I probably pissed off your husband, who's one of my best friends. I'm really, really sorry. Are we okay? Right? I completely understand your side. I hope you can appreciate my side. Let's just agree to never talk about this anymore. Right? So
Yeah.
we healed from that. Right? Own my part. That was kind of owning my part. Right? I had to own my part of it, not just point fingers at them and say they're wrong. You know, they haven't they haven't been adopted and they haven't had preemie babies, right? This is wrong. No, that's my perspective through the lens that I've lived the world through.
Yeah.
Right. And last is be patient, right? Be patient with the response. It's going to freaking probably take a while, especially with the shit you did.
Yeah.
Forgiveness takes a while, but time is the ultimate healer. So focus on yourself first. Have a humble posture, seek humility to understand, validate the other's perspective and feelings, own your part, and be patient with the timing. If they don't forgive you right away, keep going for it. Right?
What's the definition of being humble? Being humble is like having humility for somebody else's situation?
Yeah, I think so. I think it goes along with grace. Right? I've heard grace described as providing someone something they don't deserve. Right? So
Interesting.
when
Okay.
you and I were addicts, we probably didn't deserve any grace, did we?
No.
No, my sponsor.
I thought I deserved all the grace, but definitely not.
No, my sponsor gave it to me. A few of my friends that were in the new gave it to me.
Okay.
Right? They didn't judge me off rock bottom and the worst things I did. They focused on the good they had seen in me in the past and the good they knew I could be.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
So no, your mom's going to give you grace. She will forgive you. She probably already has, right? She's super proud of you. I'm proud of you. You're just such an inspiration, brother. The way you talk, the people you know, the connections you have. Brian last week was incredible, right?
Yeah.
I guarantee me and you and him could just have a blast together, just sitting telling stories from our past. But I love that we all had those checker pass and those problems, or we're all going out and seeking people and looking for people in the holes, in the ditches that we were in, to helping to try and pull them out, because it's not just a one person job. It's a whole community.
It is a whole community for sure. And then in the industry we're in, sales, real estate, like there's a lot of addiction. There's a lot of everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's everybody's so extreme with everything too, which is crazy.
Yeah. So I'll keep saying it. My faith keeps me grounded, right? My fitness creates routines throughout my day, right? My fitness creates routines throughout my day, right? White space in my calendar, meaning free time in my calendar. I think of white things up my nose, right? Our friend JJ Mazzo said that to me once. I'm like, dude, I so agree. If my hands aren't idle, I could have a tendency to lean into that.
Wow.
Right?
Say that one more time. You've said that to me, but now that you said where it came from,
White things in my calendar equal white things up in my
white
nose.
things up my nose.
Now I'm an extremist. I am a very black or white, right?
Yeah.
People will be like, dude, you're either super fit or you're really chubby. Why can't you stay in between? I'm like, I'm black or white, man. If I'm disciplined in my eating, I am super disciplined. Like, don't let anything in, right?
Yeah, man. I remember when we first met, you were jacked city.
If I'm not, then I am a mess, right? If
But
I'm
is there a
not,
happy medium though? Like, do you find a happy medium in that? It's just, it doesn't matter. That's just who you are in your personality.
it's not for me.
Okay.
It's not for me. I've tried to balance, right? The routine, the discipline, the accountability, the over and over. Like if you look at my phone, right? It's all my counters. I got one thing left to do, right?
Yeah.
In 13 minutes, I got to go because I got to finish my pre-approval calls, right? And then it says go home at 6. So my alarms will go off, right? If I don't follow that, I will start to veer off course. Now, the freedom and the fun that I have is because of the discipline and the attention to detail and the extreme thoughts of if I have white space in my calendar, I might go back to being an addict.
Wow. That's heavy, man. That's crazy. I never thought of it that way, but that makes complete sense on why you're so gnarly about your calendar, which I get it. I get why you do that, but I never really why day in and day out. Now it makes complete sense.
But the fitness led me to there, right? The fellowship of being vulnerable and honest and real with my friends, with the people in my meetings, with my sponsor, right? Having that openness and that fellowship, I called it. That's the third F. Having that fellowship allowed me to say, hey, I'm not alone. I'm not in this alone. There's other people feeling shame. A lot of them were Christians. The meetings I went to were at a church, right? It was faith-based.
Yep.
Man, thank God for that fellowship, right? I was only one of the people that I still stay in contact with, but I needed that fellowship at that time, right?
Yeah, to show you it's possible. That's the whole point of doing that. You know what I'm saying?
And then I had to go back in and be able to have fun without the drugs. Right.
Yeah.
Be able to go back to Wrigley Field and pound 6 craft beers if I wanted to, and not go running across the street to the dealer that I used to go to.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to test myself with friends around, with my fellowship around, with my friends, say, watch out for me. I'm not quite clear yet, but I want to go back and do this. I can't stay away from Wrigley Field forever. I freaking love the Chicago Cubs, right? It's my favorite place on earth. So I'm not going to pull that out of my life. I'm going to surround myself with people that know what I'm going through. That's the fellowship. That's the friends. And I'm going to tell them to watch out for me. And I'm going to try and live my life doing the things that I love to do without having to worry about going back to being an addict. And I had to reintroduce that stuff.
Wow, that's crazy. I could only imagine if like my favorite spot to use was at Allegiant Stadium at a Raider game, because that would ruin it for me, because I'd have a hard time.
So, man, that's just what I think this is all about. And, you know, I always want to talk because we all have kids and we were addicts. So I'm on this journey of honesty with my kids and my family and everybody involved. I just want to provide them options and honesty. And honesty. I want to tell them what to do. You know what you would have gotten at age 16, 17, Woo or Drago?
Yep.
Yeah.
Fuck off. Get out of town. We're not
There's
doing
a
that.
reason I listen to Rage Against the Machine and a couple of those songs, right? And I live my life by, like, you know.
Yeah.
I like
the options, giving them the options, and just telling them, because I never really did that either. I never really told like I love everybody, man. If I love you, I'm going to tell you I love you, because I believe you deserve to hear that.
Well, it's like, hey, you can go down this path and I can't expect you not to, because I did it. So I would be foolish, nor is my daughter, Colette Parker. I would be foolish to think you're not going to be tempted and you might not have some of the same impulses your father had, right?
Yeah.
So you can go out and do it. Here's what's different, right? When I did it, I wasn't going to die because of fentanyl. There was no fentanyl.
Yeah.
Right. Not an excuse, but a reality, right? Hey, I did go down the path and do it. Here's all the horrible things it led to for me, right? I did this and I stole money too, right? And I had my mom launder my drug money that when I was slanging through the bank. So I did stuff similar to you, right? Except I didn't steal money. I sold the drugs to make the money to do what I wanted to do, right?
Yeah, I would have been a horrible drug dealer.
Well, I always sold stuff I didn't like doing, right? So I was a smart one.
That makes sense.
But the truth in that was I'd take the money to my mom and have her launder and say, "Oh, I won big at the casino again."
Yeah.
Bullshit. No, I didn't. Yep. Right. But I can tell all those stories, and I've started working towards a story. I don't think my wife enjoys it. She lets me do it, but she's like, "Oh God, I didn't know this one." Right. Do you really have to tell our daughters I hate? I'm like, yes, I do. Right? Yeah. Or you can go down this path, which I've seen a lot of people go down, and this is the path, and you can go down either path. I just want to let you know what it leads to, right? But you're going to make your own decisions, and know even if you go down that path, you can come to me. We can talk about it. I'm not going to have shame in you. I'm not going to rip your booty about it. I'm not going to spank you or discipline you, right? We'll have an honest conversation about it. And maybe that's the wrong way of going about it, bud, but that's how I'm going about it.
No, I agree with you on that one. I mean, like we can only be open and honest with our kids so that someday when they do get into those type of situations, hopefully I'm the first phone call they pick up, or they, if there's in a situation, they make intelligent decision because I was open and honest about me and who I was and what I did. And we'll see, because we're definitely not going to stop them from doing anything, but for sure, like, just like I'm sure in your family, like the drug gene, that it runs in my family. So pray to God, that doesn't happen. But for sure, moving forward, I just open and honest and letting them know exactly where I was at, when I was at, how it happened. And my wife's the same way. Like when I tell crazy stories, like when I called the cops on myself because I was high on meth and for a couple of days, I thought somebody's breaking into my house. Like that really happened. It might be funny to them, but like that's a true story. That could happen to you. Hopefully it doesn't. You make a good decision, but
yeah, you go down that path. These are the things that happen, right?
Yeah.
So I just think that's beautiful, man. I'm in sales. I'm a big options guy. I don't tell people what to do. I say, you could do this, this, or this. This is what I would do. Which one do you want to do? Right.
Yeah.
That's worked really well for me. It's worked good in my marriage. Hey, we could do this, this, or this. Which one do you think we should do? Is what I think we should do. We come to a determination, right? Yeah. I think we got to be that way with our kids. It gives them respect. It gives them vulnerability and honesty, and it lets them know they can come back to you to talk about it. Because God bless my parents, I could not talk to them about any of this.
Yeah. And that's a great way to think about it. Like I never thought of it. I do the same thing, right? Like I'm not the sales guy. I'm going to provide you with your options and the facts and be fair. And then you're going to tell me where we go from there. Why am I not doing that with my kids as well?
Well, brother, I am just so proud of the man you've become. I'm proud of what we're doing together. I love you. I love your vulnerability. I love your honesty. I love your transparency. I know it helps people. I'm just here to tell you guys, we always leave our phone numbers in the comment section. So look there. We're just living proof that you can turn around. We both hit rock bottom. I tried to kill myself. Jeff did similar things, right? We both shouldn't be here is the truth, right? Yeah. But we are, and we've turned our lives around, and we've done it through seeking help, helping people out. Listening to people that have been through it, and know you can do it too. You can have a great life. Addiction does not define you. Your weaknesses don't define you. And the truth is they've become my strengths. I am nowhere where I am today without going through that adversity, without having that chaos in my life, without recovering and hitting that rock bottom. I'm nowhere close to where I'm at today.
For sure. 100%. And I'll say it again. I say it every time. Like we do find happiness. We do find love. We do find a financial freedom if you want it. So we're always available. We do this so that we can, fill our own cup up. And, obviously like even this podcast, this was great talking about some stuff I've really never talked about, and that makes me feel better. But at the same time, like we just want to get the word out there that if you want to find happiness, if you want to find recovery, if you don't want to kill yourself, like, we're always available. We have the resources to help you get to where you need to go. And we would love to talk with you. And I'd rather you call me at 3:00 in the morning than me have to go to your funeral. That's for sure. 100%. Before we go, we got some big guests I'm working on. My buddy, Mike Diamond, he's on the show Intervention. He's one of the interventionists. I talked to him on wanting to come onto the podcast. This guy's got like 500,000 Instagram followers. He's huge in the recovery. Wow. I reached out to him on social media, and he's like super into coming on the podcast. So I think that would be like a massive show. And then I follow this dude, the Fentanyl Project out in Arizona, where he helps people get off the street with fentanyl. And so he's got a huge following too on Instagram. And so he was open to wanting to come on here and talk about what he does. I think those are going to be great shows and help a lot of people.
Awesome, buddy. Well, I appreciate your connections. I love you. Why don't you take us out?
All right, brother. Love you too. Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Later.